Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this parallel session this afternoon in this sunny day in Barcelona. It's a pleasure to me to introduce myself. My name is Joaquim Julià Torres. I'm the director of the Catalan Institute of Oncology, the ICO, in Badalona, in northern Barcelona. First of all, I'd like to thank the CEO of my institute, Dr. Candela Calle, and the Deputy CEO, Dr. Clopés, for letting me join this evening with you to share the Catalan Institute of Oncology model based on cancer networking. I will give you some data about our institution in regard to our oncologic network. The Catalan Institute of Oncology is a public monographic institute of cancer and offers a comprehensive approach to the disease and brings together within the same organization prevention, care, specialized training and research, both epidemiological, clinical and translational. These are our resources. We have approximately 200 beds, about 100 points for giving chemotherapy treatment. We have 12 radiotherapy equipments and 3 equipments for intraoperative radiotherapy and 4 brachytherapy equipments. This is our most important power, the people. We work together with more than 1,300 people in all the network. And this is what happens in one day at the ICO. We visit more than 1,000 people every day at the office. We give 20 discharges from wards. We see about 60 new cases of cancer every day, and we give approximately 500 treatments in our hospital in relation to treatment of chemotherapy, immunotherapy, and other systemic treatments. We also perform more than 400 treatments of radiotherapy, and we perform about 17 stem cell transplantation processes per month. This is our oncological network, and this will be the focus of our table this afternoon. ICO's network is organized around 4 monographic cancer centers that work together with 4 general hospitals and 19 more county hospitals. ICO's network is the cancer reference institute in approximately 50% of the Catalan population. The aims of the network is to provide equity, to provide proximity, and to give efficiency to the system. And that will be what we want to talk this afternoon. Today's speakers, let me introduce them. Dr. Vanessa Quiroga, she's a Bachelor of Medicine in 2006, Medical Oncology Specialist in 2010, Master Degree in Health Management in 2018. She's Doctor in Medicine with cum laude qualification in 2019. Her area of interest is breast cancer, and she's currently the Head of Care at the Department of Medical Oncology in ICO Badalona. Nuri Kher is Bachelor of Pharmacy since 2001, Hospital Pharmacist Specialist since 2006, Board Certified Oncology Pharmacist since 2007, Pharmacy Coordinator at ICO Girona, and she is the Coordinator of the Pharmaceutical Care Working Group of the Oncological Network. And finally, Dr. Ana Rivera, she's Bachelor of Medicine in 2002. She's Family and Community Medicine Specialist since 2006. She's a Master Degree in Business Administration since 2008, and she currently is the Medical Director at Serveis de Salut Integrals del Baix Empordà and Hospital de Palamós in Girona. So this is today's schedule. Dr. Vanessa Quiroga will talk us about the assistance and research model. Dr. Nuri Kher is going to explain the pharmacy and knowledge model. And finally, Dr. Ana Rivera is going to tell us about the county hospital view of the model. And we'll have time later on for your questions and for the answers to be given. So please, let's wait until the end of all the speakers to ask for questions. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And I ask Dr. Quiroga, please, to come to the stage. Thank you.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for coming. Before starting my presentation, I'd like to thank Dr. Julia for giving me the opportunity to share this roundtable and share my presentation with you. So let's start. This afternoon, I'm going to talk briefly about our healthcare and research model in our institution. Sorry. I'm getting used to it. Here we have the agenda. And let's move on to the introduction. I'll start by filling you in our institution. I don't want to repeat any information that Dr. Julia gave some minutes ago. But as he said, we work with big 4 hospitals that work together with a smaller one that are distributed around all Catalonia. They are spread out in our territory. ICO has its own territorial model. It's a multi-center organization that works in a coordinated way with 19 hospitals. And to understand the magnitude of our institution, I'd like to highlight that 50% of the population in Catalonia is covered by ICO. ICO follows the comprehensive care cancers model and bases its efforts in 4 big pillars: patient care, prevention, research, and teaching. This afternoon, I'm going to focus on 2 of them, that are patient care and research. So, move on to the specifics. We start talking about the transversal model in healthcare. As I mentioned before, we work with plenty of satellite or local hospitals that are in different places on Catalonia that work together with those big hospitals. The specialists travel around to the different hospitals, and why this is important? This is important because we bring the knowledge where to the patient is, and we don't let any patient to be treated in a different way where the patient lives. But sometimes it's the patient who travels around. I'm going to explain in more detail in next slide about this. And to achieve this complex relationship, we have to, first of all, be in a very coordinated way with other hospitals, and secondly, we have to make strategic alliances with them. And to explain in more detail how we decide what a patient is going to be treated, we have to take into account, or we take into account, these 4 variables. First of all, drug characteristics. We have to know about the toxicity and the conditions of preparation and administration on a specific drug. We take into account the type of cancer, if they need for specialization, as for example, brain tumors, sarcomas, or head and neck cancer, or if there is any option for a clinical trial. Third, we take into account the characteristics of the hospital, as for example, the inpatient or outpatient area, and if there is the availability of some specifics or specific units, as for example, unit care or some kind of surgeons. And finally, we have to take into account the characteristics of the patient. That is the very and the most important point. For example, fragility, comorbidities, and the proximity to the center from the home to the patient. And after considering all these variables, we decide where a patient is going to be treated, in which center the patient is going to be treated in a certain moment of their disease. So as we know, the patient's needs vary throughout all the process of cancer. So in the slide before, I talk about how we decide a patient is going to be treated. And this slide, I'm going to explain briefly how we decide the specific treatment for a specific patient. We have our own clinical practice guidelines that are called ecopraxis, and these guidelines are based on specific evidence on approval drugs and also in those drugs that are provided of our health system. That is a very important point. So these guidelines help us to maintain therapeutic equity among all patients in our territory. And in 2017, another big hospital joined to us, and we created the Oncological Network of Catalonia. And the eco-praxis starts calling eco-X praxis. But we are not the only ones who use these guidelines. There are plenty of hospitals around Catalonia and beyond that use this eco-praxis as a reference tool to decide what is the best therapeutic option for their patients. Turning on how we treat or visit patients, I like to mention the functional units of oncology care. We launched our first functional unit in 1990, that it was specifically for breast cancer. But what is a functional unit? It's an organizational structure based on the initial assessment of the patient by interdisciplinary teams specializing in its type of cancer. And unlike the classical committees where a patient is visited by different specialists in different places or days, the functional units help us to visit a patient at the same moment by all the specialists that are needed for this patient. For example, in the head and neck cancer functional unit, a patient with a head and neck cancer is visited at the same time by the oncologist, the nurse, the surgeon, the oncology therapeutic, and every specialist that is needed in that moment. This model has been applied for different tumors since we started, and now we have more than 10 functional units that are created. This model has resulted in the facilitation of a rapid and accurate diagnosis, significantly improvement diagnosis treatment intervals, that is very important in oncological patients, having a positive impact on patient survival, and providing the patient and his family with more personalized and comprehensive care. And with this image, I'd like to synthesize that our networking model differs to others. While other institutions or hospitals only focus on supply or cover the small hospitals, we try to integrate. We work further to integrate all specialists, all workers, and all patients in this model to really work together. So it's time to talk about the transversal model in research. This is our organizational chart. We have a CEO, we have a director on knowledge and research, and we have a scientific director that is the same scientific director for all the institution. This helps us to share information, share strategic alliance, share knowledge, and share some kind of projects. Here, I'd like to show in this slide that each hospital works with its Institute for Health Science Research. And the purpose of our translational research or our scientific director are to bridge the gap between clinical and basic research, to identify new strategies of basic research and apply them to clinical practice, and finally, to apply the knowledge obtained to the improvement of the treatment of cancer patients in a day-to-day of clinical trials. And going back what I explained before about our research model, I'd like to explain in this specifically. I want to explain a bit about the early drug development program that was launched 3 years ago. In this program is a specific program only for early clinical trials. We held weekly meetings. We share the portfolio of clinical trials, and the most important thing is that we discuss patients to find the best therapeutic option in a clinical trial. So this model aims to ensure equity to all cancer patients population covered by our institution and beyond. So there are some patients that are referred for our institution. And since this model started until now, we have had a huge increase of the number of clinical trials, an increase of plus than 31% of the number of clinical trials, and a huge increase on the number of patients included in these clinical trials, plus 146 more patients included. With this program, we try to offer the possibility to administer therapies which are difficult to access through the standard public system, as for example, immunotherapy or target therapy. And I like to share this example because I think that this is a very good example of how a networking model can improve and be very, very successful. And that brings me near the end of the presentation, but before finishing it, I'd like to share with you some reflections about pros and cons about this model. About the cons, as you can see, it's a complex model. It requires a huge management and excellent leadership. It requires a lot of organization and requires the collaboration of the whole institution that sometimes is difficult. And the pros are that it tries to ensure equity for all patients, regardless of their location, equity for professionals, we share the knowledge, we all have the same opportunities, and we have a single and common goal for everyone. And to sum up, I will share some conclusions. This model is a patient-centered care model. Despite the complexity of our transversal or cross-sectional model, it ensures accessibility, equity, and high quality for all cancer patients treated in our institution and beyond. The staff work efficiently, and networking with all workers and sharing knowledge ensures team excellence. And finally, that we have a single and common goal, that is to work to reduce the impact cancer in Catalonia. And that's all. Thank you very much. And I'll be pleased to answer your questions after all the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Quiroga. We have some problems with the mask. I'm sorry because I didn't take off my mask before because it's something that we have absolutely integrated in our lives. Thank you, Dr. Quiroga, for your brilliant presentation, and thank you for adjusting to the time. So we'll have plenty of time for questions. Now it's time for Dr. Nuriker, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me to speak here, Dr. Julia. And I'm going to talk today about drug policy and oncology pharmacy coordination. The Institute Catalan of Oncology promotes a comprehensive management of value and good governance for the participation, commitment, and involvement of professionals in the management and decision-making process. Drug policy is integrated with the mission, vision, and value of the ECO. Our model is based on territorial equity, proximity, efficiency, quality improvement with the consensus of the different agents involved, CatSalut, Oncology Master Plan, and network comarcal hospitals. Medication currently play a key role in healthcare, especially in the field of oncology. the provision of quality care to cancer patients and decision-making in relation to medicine is currently subject to a number of factors, such as recent development of new drugs and new therapeutics targets, increase in drug use, contradictory literature in its results, increase in the bill for medicine, and increase in the expectation of patients. The execution of this policy is done through development of guidelines based on criteria of evidence and efficiency, mainly through the action of the Pharmacotherapeutic Commission and the design of the clinical practice guideline ECOX Praxis. Implementation of this guideline, evaluation of health outcomes, networking and cooperation, and the pillars on which these objectives are achieved are the participation of professional and pharmacy units. The Pharmacotherapeutic Commission is the technical body of the hospital care team and advisor to the eco-management in all aspects related to the use of medicine. The selection of the drugs to be included in the guide of pharmacotherapy will be based on the evaluation of scientific evidence. The fundamental criteria of which Commission decisions are based are those efficiency, safety, and cost. The evaluation of effectivity will be based on scientific evidence. The methodology will be based on the systematic review of the results published in the scientific literature. In relation to security, the information generated by both clinical trial and well-designed observational study will be taken into account. The most significant adverse effects and their incidence will be indicated. With equal efficacy, the safe drug will be selected, and in the sense of the comprehensive safety information, the option with the most clinical experience will be chosen. With respect to drug in oncology, safety use involves a risk-benefit assessment, and acceptance of the ratio may vary by disease, patient group, or disease stage. Toxicity analysis should take into account both acute and chronic toxicity. In relation to economic evaluation, must define demonstration of efficacy of new drugs or new indication is closely linked the clinical benefit according to compare alternative, the perspective of analyze and the measure of the results. The decision of the Pharmacotherapeutic Commission must indicate restrictive inclusion, temporary inclusion, not inclusion, and the decision is postponed. But recommendation that encourage proper use, inclusion in therapeutic protocol or clinical guideline, and monitoring and control of use. There are 4 reference centers and 19 county hospitals. A pharmacy coordination group was created within the network. A pharmacy coordination is based on the following 3 points: pharmaceutical care working group on the oncology network, a process for joint development and implementation of clinical practice guideline, and process for joint acquisition of the drugs. The pharmaceutical care group of the oncology network is a multidisciplinary group made up the professionals from the Catalan Institute of Oncology, the Catalan Health Service, the Oncology Master Plan, and the regional hospital of the network where the ECO collaborated. The main objective of this group is the coordination and establishment of substance tools in pharmaceutical care in the area of the oncology network in order to provide a pharmaceutical service with criteria to uniform accessibility, equity, quality, and efficiency, and with a view of care that focus on the patients. There are also a specific objective in this group is establishment of common criteria and definition of the circuits that are treated as results, development, diffusion, and implementation and evaluation of the results of protocols and clinical guides, definition and implementation of uniform quality standards in the pharmaceutical care process, development of shared continuous training tools in the area of oncology, pharmacy, and development of common line of research with the working group. In this slide, we can see the pharmacy network group process diagram, and the specific criteria for the incorporation of the drug into the network are as follows. According to drug characteristics, toxicity or condition of preparation and administration, according to disease, need for maximum specialization, according to center characteristics, specialist coverage, the hospital, hospitalization, available of other specialists and or service, according to patients, frailty, family support, social situation, and it's important focus the patient. The classification of drug according to the decision to join the network are approval and incorporation of the treatment in the network center, approval but not incorporation of the treatment in the network center, treatment that need to be administration in the reference center, approval and incorporation according to the range of service of the center and with the agreement of the reference specialist for that disease, and not approval in any network center. In this slide, we can see an example of the table where we classify the drugs and the treatment schemes according to whether or not they are approved on the network. The SPOC is a computer tool designed by the ICO that facilitate the implementation of the new drugs, protocols, and guidelines through the network. In the SPOC, you navigate and design the protocol scheme based on the ICO praxis. And in the SPOC, there are also the supportive treatments. In conclusion, the model based on cancer network contributes territorial equity, proximity, efficiency, improved quality. This SPOC is the tool that supports the ICO network chemotherapy process. This application increases security, improves knowledge management in all the center. Many thanks for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much. For your presentation, Nuria. We'll have time for questions later on, and for those who are watching us via streaming, you can ask your questions via the APP. So don't hesitate to do that if you wish so. And last but not least, we're going to have the presence of Dr. Rivera, who she will talk us about the vision from the county hospital. Dr. Rivera, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Anna Rivera, and I'm the Chief Medical Officer of CIBE, Integrated Health Services of Baix Empordà. I want to thank ICO for inviting CIBE to participate in this table. My goal today is to tell you the vision from Baix Empordà on the agreement with ICO regarding the care of cancer patients in our territory. First of all, and considering that many of you may come from abroad, I would like to describe where I come from. Our territory of reference is the region of Baix Empordà in the province of Girona in the north of Catalonia. To get to Palamós Hospital from here, where I work, it would take you about an hour and a half by private car. Getting there by public transportation is still a bit tricky and slower. Baix Empordà is one of the most beautiful areas in the world. We are part of the Costa Brava, a coast full of small beaches with crystal clear waters which form beautiful landscapes. We also have villages full of century-old stone houses that have preserved their essence. I leave you with these three Instagram addresses where you can see what I'm talking about. With all that in mind, you can imagine that the population we serve in the winter month has nothing to do with the crowds we receive in the summer month. Once located on the map, and I hope with the desire to come and visit us, I tell you who we are at CIBE. We are an integrated health care organization. We manage primary care, hospital care, and social and long-term care in the Baix Empordà region with a reference population of more than 130,000 inhabitants. Of all the health offerings in the regions, the only ones we do not manage is a basic area of primary care out of a total of 5, and a mental health that is managed from Girona for the whole province. Therefore, from the CIBE, we manage the acute care hospital with 120 beds, 4 primary care areas that have a reference population of 100,000 inhabitants, and social and long-term care center with 160 beds. Integrating different levels under the same management promotes the continuity of care and shared goals. Before getting into details of our agreement with ICO, I think it would be helpful to describe some characteristics of the Catalan health system. Let's travel back in time to 1981, 40 years ago, the year Ronald Reagan was elected for the 40th President of the United States, and the year Diana and Charles got married. In the same year, the government of Spain decided to transfer the responsibility for healthcare in some autonomies to the regional governments. One of the regions was Catalonia. The situation of health facilities in Catalonia was very different from other regions in Spain. Previously, most investments in healthcare in Spain was focused on large hospitals in the provincial capitals. However, at that time, Catalonia already had a wide network of small and medium-sized hospitals created by religious organizations, mutual cooperations, and municipalities, with a long historical tradition and strong roots in the territory, which had been developed to meet the population health needs. Thus, in 1981, the state-owned health organization beds accounted only for 34% of the total in Catalonia, the rest mostly being private non-for-profit institutions. Based on this reality, it was decided that this network of private facilities be contracted to offer universal public care on behalf of the Catalan Health Service. This innovative organizational formula built on the expertise already existing in the territory, it fostered the active engagement of all these entities and created an agile system with significant degrees of autonomy. The Catalan health system offers universal and equitable coverage. The backbone of the system is primary health care, located close to where the population lives, and a network of hospitals ensuring that everybody can reach a hospital in less than an hour. Due to this organization, in each health region, you will find a large tertiary hospital and several county hospitals. These county hospitals offers a wide portfolio of services, including the majority of medical and surgical specialties, as well as diagnostic services. Hopefully, if I was able to explain the Catalan model, we can now move on discuss our agreement with ICO. It started in 2002. 20 years ago, a year in which the owner of a Nokia 8250 felt the most modern and technology-prepared person in the world, and it was also the year that European population started using euros. At Palamós Hospital, as in the rest of county hospitals in Catalonia, we had been developing more services, integrating more specialities, and providing increasingly specialist services. The Oncology Service, our Oncology Service, was created with only one oncologist who cared for all patients in our territory. We found that oncology was quickly super-specializing, and it was difficult for a single oncologist to control the entire field of oncology and follow the exploding developments. Our oncologist was a generalist oncologist and was unable to keep up with the clinical developments of the super-specialties. At the same time, ICO was already growing and specializing. They were the best in the field of oncology, so we knew which door to know for help in this area, so we did it. At Palamós Hospital, we already had experience in this type of agreement, as we had already done it with endocrinology with our tertiary reference hospital, Josep Trueta Hospital. This partnership had been successful both from the perspective of professional and patients. So in 2002, we signed an agreement with ICO for its professionals to visit the cancer patients in our hospital 3 days a week. The emergency care and admissions, if required, of these patients is provided by our hospital. Similarly, the medication required by these patients is prepared and delivered by our own hospital pharmacy service. And of course, since the agreement with the oncologists worked very well, 2 years later, we did the same with dermatologists, of which we only had one professional. This agreement is really a win-win for everyone, both for entities, CIBE and ICO, and for patients, so it should be a win-win-win. On the one hand, we manage the guarantee of quality of the service to the oncological patient. This is a specialty that, as we have already said, is becoming more and more specialized. A small hospital like ours are not able to keep up with it. Therefore, with this agreement, we managed to maintain good quality indicators and leverage the knowledge of professionals in this field. In addition, we managed to have a service that is accessible and delivered close to where the patients live, and they don't have to travel to the tertiary hospital. Exception made of some cases that require treatments that are beyond our capabilities as a county hospital. Another aspect included in this agreement is that of medication. In Catalonia, the hospitals have annual objects on medication expenditures, quality of services. With the agreement with ICO, this responsibility is shared, so we get a very fluid collaborations in the field of pharmacy, as Nuri Kerr has explained to you before. If we consider the success factors of this type of agreement, I would highlight several. The first is to share goals. Both ICO and CIBE agreed that the #1 priority should be the care of patients and everything should organize around it. It's necessary for an agreement to work that both parts share the ultimate objective. I know this sounds very obvious, but it's often the reason behind the failure of some collaborations. The second success factor is that both ICO and CIBE have been able to communicate the objective of the care model to the professionals. These objectives are jointly monitored between professionals and managers, so that if any problem arises, it can be easily resolved. For example, if the waiting time for the first visit with the oncologist exceeds the agreed time, ICO and CIBE act by increasing the number of weekly visits until the problem is solved. Since all the objectives are patient-centered, this facilitates that both institutions can work in the same direction. Finally, the third and last success factor is the coordination at the pharmacy level. On the one hand, we use ICO computer system, SPOC, and this allows us to standardize the preparation of the medication. On the other hand, this coordination within pharmacy also allows us to share knowledge. And finally, networking with another institution is always good. Let me give you an example that happened to us very recently. During the COVID pandemic, because nothing ever happens in easy times, we had a problem in the boxes where we prepare chemotherapy drugs in our pharmacy, in Hospital de Palamós. This means that we could not prepare them properly, and suspending any treatment was not an option. We asked ICO to help us, and during 3 weeks, they prepared the treatment for us. Patient didn't notice anything, as the operation of the circuits remained the same. If we hadn't had this agreement with ICO, the solution to the problem could have been less efficient and much slower. And this is the last slide, and I know that I have said it before, but I think this is worth repeating. It's absolutely necessary to put the patient in the center in all the decisions that we make, be it in our hospital or when we cooperate with other institutions. At the end, the agreement with ICO has benefited cancer patients in Baix Empordà. We're able to offer them a high-quality, accessible, resolutive and personalized service, and we are able to do all this close to their home. Almost 4 out of 5 patients do not have to go to the tertiary hospital, and for us the biggest success is that the patient is the most benefited from this agreement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rivera. One important thing that Dr. Rivera didn't mention is that they have the best prawns in the world from Palamos and all the shellfish. Really. Okay. So it's time for your questions, please, in the audience. If you have some questions, please raise your hand and don't hesitate to ask us. In the meanwhile, I'd like to ask Dr. Quiroga, which is, in your opinion, the best approach in providing assistance to the patient in a county hospital. The model that brings one oncologist or one hematologist that fits all, or giving or working with several different persons, each one in their area of specialization.
I have no doubt that the model is to have a specialist in oncology and not a general oncology, as you say, that is the option, because oncology is growing very quickly. We are every day more specialized, the treatments are more complex every day, and it's impossible for an oncologist to be updated for every cancer for today, yes. And I think that the model is to be specialized, and that the specialized travels around the different hospitals, or the patients travels if it's needed, depending on their needs, but no doubt that's specialized oncology, of course.
I think, do you agree, Dr. Rivera, with this model?
Yes. For us, it was very difficult to have only an oncologist well prepared, to have the quality to attend all the patients in Baix Empordà. So for us, it was a very good solution, and we are not worried for that now, for the quality of the assistance.
And what do they say, the oncologists, where when the chief says, you have to go to Palamos, you have to go to Vilafranca, you have to go out of the big tertiary hospital to provide assistance to the patients?
I think that
I think that oncologists are very interested, not only in assistance, but also in research, translational research,
of course.
Very advanced and complicated things.
I think that the point is that everyone knows that our model, and if you start working in our institution, you have to know that this is our model, and we work in networking hospitals, and this is the model. If you know that and you start working, and you have some opportunities to do research, to do other things, to improve and advance in any way that you want to, I think that it's not a problem. The problem is when you don't know that, and someone's asks you to go for visiting another place. But if you know that, when you start working in our institution, I think that's all information. I think that it's a clue.
I think when an institution like ICO, the management, knows what they want, and they want to help the county hospitals, for the professionals it's easy to understand, because they enter, they begin to work, and they know that the part of their work is go to the county hospital. So for us, I think if the secret is the management knows clear that that's the model to follow, and not another one.
And if you want to take care of the patient, and if you want equity for all of them, I think that this is the model. So.
Okay, we have a first question in the front row. So please, if we can have a micro, thank you. And please, if you don't mind, please say your name and your institution, please. This way.
Thank you. I am Josep Fuster from La Unió. I am two questions. The first one is about evaluation of health outcomes in the network. Do you share results? What kind of dimensions you use in the indicators or the results that you share? And the second question is something to improve about your experience?
Well, we have a very fluently relationship with ICO, and we always look all the indicators, like time indicators, but quality pharmacy quality, knowledge, everything. We have a big, long list of indicators, and we share it, I think, twice or thrice with this management. And every year we have a big meeting with the CEO of ECO to see all the indicators, to see if something can be improved or if something goes wrong to resolve the problem. So I think that's the secret of for a collaboration that works, to have this fluently communication and collaboration. So we do that.
And for improve?
Well, there are a lot of things to improve, I guess. So.
Yes. I think that one thing that we can improve is, for example, some circuits that we could be more agile. For example, when we want a patient to be referred to other of our centers, sometimes bureaucratic ways are sometimes a point, but I think it's difficult to find. I think we work very well. Now probably there are too.
Now we are going to work how SPOC, the computer system, can help us in the, I don't know, the hospital de dia.
In patients? No, outpatients, in the outpatient area?
In outpatient area.
Treatment area.
Because for us it's difficult to have both our computer system and their computer system, so we have to work how we can work best together, I think. We are going to work next week. Next week we are going to.
And if you allow me, I think it's very important what you said about results. We have to work, and we are getting to work into patient-centered outcomes, into results. Are we approaching to the results of the clinical trials, but in the real world? We have some experiences, for example, in the Oncology Service in Barcelona, that they compare their results against the results of the pivotal trials, and I have to say that results are far good.
Yes.
So, but this is obviously a good way to improve our network. We have another question, Randea.
Hello, my name is Eli Campreciós, and I work in Altaya, Manresa. And my question is regarding the quality of life of your patients, the model of care. I would like to know if you contemplate in your model of care programs that refer more to the emotional well-being of the patients. I know you do, because we in Altaya now we are running a multicentric trial about the impact of the art therapy sessions in oncological patients, and ICO Girona, ICO Badalona, and ICO Hospitalet participate in it. But I would like to listen what are your views regarding this kind of projects, more like to the emotional needs?
If I understand you well,
yes.
Maybe I ask you to do the question again, is if we think about any project or program to improve the emotional assistance for the patient. Yes?
Yes.
Yes?
If you contemplate,
I don't know if Dr. Julia, as palliative care, can help us.
My area of interest is palliative care, so maybe I will be the one to ask for to answer this. The ECO model is holistic in nature, so that means that we care for the patient, for his or her family, and we give a lot of importance to the emotional well-being in all the course of the disease. It doesn't matter if you're near end of life or you're starting with a new diagnostic of cancer. We have specialized teams in psycho-oncology and social work, palliative care, nutrition, that give all the holistic approach to the cancer patient needs. And in regarding to the network, we have, for example, in the area of Barcelona, we have our psycho-oncologists work in the same network as the rest, and they go to the county hospitals and visit patients there, and they're included in the tumor boards, and they take part of all the process of all the oncological process. One red line maybe is that we only promote actions that have some scientific evidence. No, so we don't perform therapies that are considered alternative, and so we don't do that. But we try to include to our portfolio all of the coverage of the needs of the patients.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the audience? Okay, I would like to talk a little bit more in depth with about SPOC, which is one of the jewels of the crown, let me say. SPOC is a computer program that allows. You did just a brief explanation of it, but it's more than a chemotherapy program. It permits it allows the security of the patient. It gives you results, etc., etc. Can you tell us a bit more about the specificities of SPOC?
Yes, the SPOC is a tool of the program of the ECO, and is important for us the results of the we analyze about the SPOC. For example, there are performance-based risk sharing arrangement in the health system, and we could pay according to structure and utility and activity based on the process and the results outcome. For example, in Institute Catalan of Oncology, the first performance-based risk sharing is the 2012 to 2020, more than 16 risk sharing, more than 12 drugs, and more than 7 indications, and more 900 patients included in this program. The benefits for this is reduce and certainly between payer and provide and achieve a value-based decision, and to offer the drug to those patients who were most likely to benefit from it. And it's important, SPOC, for the results of the patients. Also, SPOC, in the pharmacy, we prepare to the chemotherapy with the standard quality, and all the center and the same.
It's okay. I'd like to know what about we know about the patient's impressions in the I will say the center hospitals of ICO in l'Hospitalet, Badalona, Girona, and Tarragona. But what about the experience of the patients in the county hospitals? Does the patient notice that? No.
I think we've never tell them. I have my CO here, and I think we've never tell them that ICO. We have this collaboration with ICO. Maybe
just. Do they wear the same
yes,
coat?
Yes, they are like people
another
from
one.
Palamós. Yeah, they come, they see a doctor as they see the digestive one or it's the same. So they don't notice nothing.
The healthcare professional is really integrated in the hospital.
Completely. Completely. It's one of us. and the patient doesn't notice anything.
Just the benefits, I guess.
Yes, I think it's good.
Okay, thank you very much. You said, Dr. Quiroga, that some patients may benefit of the network collaboration when it's time to be considered for a clinical trial. And I think that maybe it's a bit difficult thing. I come from palliative care, so clinical trials are very difficult to us. But maybe another point of difficulty is when you wanna include a patient to be benefit from a clinical trial that lives, I don't know, 50 kilometers from the big hospital. But do you perform clinical trials in the county hospital? The patients have to travel to the central hospital. How do you organize this?
The majority of clinical trials requires a big organization and are made in big hospitals. But if the satellite or local or county hospital is small but not too small for do clinical trials, there are some hospitals that do clinical trials and without any problem, but we have to take into account what kind of clinical trials. For example, phase 3 clinical trials that we don't need any specification or any specific drug preparation or any new side effect, it could be okay. But for example, for the program that we have for early clinical trials, I think that it's not possible because of the facilities of the county hospitals. And it's very expensive to open a clinical trial in an institution, so sometimes we prefer to centralize in the big ones with all the specialists in there.
And how do you manage to transfer the knowledge of this, for instance, in one side, the healthcare provider, the doctor that goes to the county hospital, how do you manage that he or she knows perfectly the portfolio of the clinical trials? How do you transfer the patient to the central hospital?
Okay. We share and we have in the institution an update portfolio of all the early clinical trials, and every workers receive this portfolio frequently. I don't know if it's twice every 2 weeks, I think so. And we receive all this portfolio of early clinical trials, and it's a dynamic document, as you can find, for example, from breast cancer, which is the best option. This is for early clinical trials, and for the other specific trials, phase 2 or phase 3 clinical trials, we have reference. We have some doctors that are transversal reference as all the knowledge in the institution, and everyone in their specialty, breast cancer, head and neck cancer, have these clinical trials. And we have a tool that we don't talk about this tool, that we have a tool that is specifically for clinical trials, and you can find all the clinical trials and all the information that we have this. And if we have a patient for clinical trials, we discuss patient in the meets that we hold weekly. And if you have a patient, you can join the meeting every week and discuss the patient and discuss with everyone that is joining the meeting what is the best option. And for clinical 2 or clinical 3, we have a very good relation with everyone. We have study coordinators, and we do it by email. And I think that we don't have any problem with this. We are very coordinated.
No.
I think one slide, I guess it was yours, said the difference between supply and integration.
I mean, yes.
Supply
Yes.
and integration. I think one of the challenges that I didn't mention before
Yes.
was that our network is not at the same level of coordination depending of the area. We have some areas that the network is totally and completely integrated, and other areas in Catalonia that the network is under construction, let me say. So this is one of the challenges we have, no? And I think that supply and integration is a lot of it has a lot to do with it. How can we move from supply to integration?
How?
How?
I think we are in the process. Yes. We have some problems about this. First, and we talked about this before, is that the specialized needs or have to need this integrated model. We are working on it, for example, in our service about the model of integration. You have to be the same specialist here and in the small hospital because you are the same and you have the knowledge. But we have other problems, as for example, the IT problems. Sometimes we don't share the same programs and we don't share the same tools that we use to visit patients, and sometimes it's difficult to be very integrated. But I think that in the country hospitals, everyone knows that ECO goes there to visit patients, and we try to share the same protocols, guidelines, for example, how to visit a patient, how to share visits with other specialists. But maybe it could be a point to improve, I think so.
Another advantage is the doctors that come to Hospital, to Palamós Hospital, are always the same. There are only two, and there's always the same doctors. So it's easy for us to ask them, they can ask to us. So the relation is good, and they know the computer system, they know how we work, what we can do and what we cannot do. So that's good, because it's like our profession.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if there's any more questions from the audience. I see that there are no questions coming from the APP. So if you don't have any more questions, we can leave the session here. I'd like to thank all the speakers for their expositions and for their contributions in the debate. And I'd like to thank you all for your assistance. Have a great Congress, enjoy Barcelona, and see you soon. Thank you very much. Good afternoon.